Welcome back, patrons, to the Nerdrotic Nooner, a very special Nerdrotic Nooner that I have gone back and forth whether I was going to do it on the main channel or not. This has been promised for a long time. And, well, some people might think I'm even crazy for doing this, but I've been called crazy before. I am a little crazy. That is part of the whole Nerdrotic vibe is a little bit of insanity, controlled insanity. But the reasons for me doing this is, I comment on things. It's good to know where somebody's coming from, and also this is a story that has been told for many years now. Through I have been in and out of AA since 1990. Now I haven't had I've had two long sobriety spells mixed in with a relapse. Had lots of relapses in the beginning. Had a relapse after multi years of sobriety. And yeah, so it's not a fun tale. This is a very sad tale. It's going to start out very grim, but I'll tell you right now. I'm going to kind of just concentrate on the story right now. So I'll get to your chat afterwards. I'll get to the chat after I'm done. I'm going to do the Cliff Notes version because there's a version of the story that can go 2 hours. There's a version of the story that can go an hour. I'm going to try to stick it to the one I do at my meetings, which is trying to keep it around 20 to 30 minutes. Because usually when you do a speaker meeting, the ones I do is you do the preamble at an AA meeting, and then the guy talks, but you want to leave like a half an hour for people to share. So that's the one I like to do. I'll try to keep it from it being a war story. Now, if you're not familiar with AA and NA, the concept of war story is somebody just tells all the times they got high. And that's not really the important part of the story. The important part, it's supposed to be what happened, how did you get sober, and how are you doing now? That's pretty much it. But it used to be a shorter story, but I'm getting older now, so there's a lot more to tell, and we'll just get right into it. Now, before I start, I would like to talk about the disease concept of alcoholism and addiction, which is something people have a very hard time getting their heads around, and I don't blame them. I had a hard time myself, even within sobriety. It is something that only really clicked for me, I would say, in the last 5 years. And that is also going through many, many years of sobriety where I just didn't buy it. I just didn't buy it as a disease. I thought it was something chemically wrong with the brain, maybe. But I always thought, and to explain it to the people who still might not believe it, because it's a hard thing to explain, is it's a disease with a conscious decision mixed in. So the disease concept is there is a chemical imbalance in some people's brains to where it's a dopamine thing. It's a dopamine imbalance, and when certain people eat or drink alcohol or do drugs, they cannot. Something gets triggered, and they cannot stop, no matter how much they want to, how much they try. It is just hard to stop. Now, with certain drugs, it is physically hard to stop. They could some could kill you, some make you very, very sick when you're coming off of pretty much everything opiate based. Fortunately, the stuff in the beginning that I was addicted to was just speed, and basically you sleep that one off. It takes about a week, but you can feel 100% in no time coming off of speed, because really speed is you feel like shit when you're on the drug, and it's just the fact that you've got your adrenaline pumping hides all the others. Your heart beating too fast, you feeling exhausted all the time. And the weird thing with me, because of my weird brain imbalances, is with certain types of speed, it just calms me down, so. And that's the whole ADHD thing, which and where I come from, I think the worst drug dealers are pharma. I think prescription drugs is a plague on our society. I think doctors overprescribe. I think there's too much money involved in it. I am by no means a socialist or anything like that, but I think with as far as there being profit involved with something like this, I think that's inherently a problem that needs to be worked out. Smarter people than me have tried to figure it out. We really can't. It's really ingrained, and it's a problem. I see the low end, I've come out I'm like not for pot. It's great that it's legal. And I actually do think drugs should just be decriminalized, in all forms. So we can maybe tax them and work on maybe, rehabilitation, using it towards rehabilitation, because it's not going to stop. You can't stop it. The black market is entrenched in our system. It's entrenched in any system, and it's actually a necessary part of a system for it to work. There's a great Battlestar Galactica episode that pretty much states that. Yeah, it's a big problem. I don't have an answer for it. All I know is I see kids dying all the time, like all the time now. It's not like it was in the 90s and in the 80s where it was just kids on speed and they were fucking up their lives and they were going to jail. Some OD'd, but it wasn't like I'm seeing now. I visit rehabs. I was visiting jails for a while, and like I would see kids coming in and they'd be gone, and I find out they're dead. And it's like 19-year-old kids, and it's bad. It's bad, and that's all thanks to the opiates that's going on right now. So yeah, there's so many layers to that problem. So let's get going. By the way, just a fair warning. This is dark. There's some dark shit that's going to happen here. Now, and as we go on, I've never done anything when I talk about doxing. I've never done anything that could I've never done anything anywhere near related to Me Too, even in my worst drug stupors. I always manage to be respectful to women. It's this crazy thing. I also am not one to use, I was so high I don't remember, or like I remember all of my highs. I know I joke about not remembering the 80s, but I remember everything. I remember being high. I had lots of lapses of judgment, but I knew what I was doing at the time. I'm not going to this is full responsibility. I don't fall back on, well, I was just high. Well, yeah, I was high. And, when I got wasted, I did become a completely different person, like a very nasty, ugly, sick person. So, but my stuff was just all personal. I never wanted to ever do harm to anybody else. I was not that kind of person. Even when I got in fights, which I got a lot of fights back in the day, I rarely started a fight. Okay. So, all right. So when I was a kid, I was born in San Diego. I was put it for adoption. My real mom was 16 when she had me, my real mom, my birth mother. And she wanted to keep me. My dad, who I do not know, my birth name was David Alexander Thorne. Yes. It was a cool last name. And my dad's last name is Knight. Another cool last name. But I've never met him. Don't know what it looks like. I think I know where he lives. He lives in a mobile home in North Carolina, I believe. That was the last time we heard. I don't know if he's alive. I don't know if he's dead. He's never made any attempt to try to contact me. And I've had moments of wanting to contact him, but I've just, nah. But my mom, I really wanted to find. We'll get to that. She gave me up. My parents, Arvin and Linda. Arvin Beekler was my dad. Linda Beekler is my mom. I have an older sister who they had, but then after my mom had Terry, my sister, she could not have kids anymore. So that's why they adopted me. They adopted me very young, so I never knew any different. They told me at a very early age. I don't know if that's good or not. I mean, I appreciate their honesty, but there was things that went along with that it wasn't until I was an adult I could figure out. But the straight up abandonment issues to start with. The first bad thing that happened to me, my parents they did the best they could. They were good parents. They didn't abuse me. They didn't do, I mean, there might've been some neglect, but really nothing major. They did the best they could. They were good parents. My older sister and I have never been close. Just never. We talked a bit, but she was 5 years older than me. She turned me on to music. She did a lot of cool things, but we never like hung out. We were never tight. Just never were. So the first bad thing that happened to me was I was abused by a public school teacher in second grade. It went on for a year. And I ended up repeating the grade. The fucker flunked me. I know his name. I know he abused other kids. I'm sure he did. I couldn't have been the only one. And abused in the bad way, in the very bad way. And he was able to go on and teach and retire, and whatever. The hardest thing to do was to forgive him, which I've done, because if I don't do that, then he wins. And I go through my life all deprogrammed. The thing is, it fucks with your brain. And that's where my authority issues started. And I still have them to this day. I didn't really respect teachers. I didn't respect authority from that day on. I only responded to teachers who were like really kind to me, and not many were. So I never really did well in school. Like, just never did well in school. Now, was it because of that, or was it because just I'm not the kind of person who fits in to the whole school thing? I don't know. But I'm a solid C student. That's all I ever was. And after that, it's a normal childhood. I had friends. We read comic books. We played superheroes. I had a tight group of friends. We hung out like every day, played football, played sports, did all that fun stuff. And we hung out through junior high. Eighth grade was probably my last good year in school. I was on the basketball team. I was a star on the basketball team. I was a star on the football team. And this was just in middle school. Then I went to high school, and I wasn't doing anything at this point. But at 12 years old, I was in Roscoe, South Dakota, at the Centennial for Roscoe, South Dakota. And I just picked up a half empty beer that was on the stage of some band. And my friend just said, "Drink it." I'm like, okay. And I've had sips of beer before, but I downed the beer, and that was the first time I got buzzed, and I fucking loved it. It was off to the races. So I found all these half drinking beers everywhere. So gross. And I drank them all. This is the first time I've ever drank. Now, I should go back and say that I have been an addict from birth. This is not something you become. Okay. I would like the story goes, you're an addict if you finish all your Halloween candy in one night. That was me. I would just gobble it all up. No self-control whatsoever. Zero. So that was the first time I drank. And then I would sneak liquor from that point on. And I remember half a junior high, there was these little plastic high C juice bottles from the early 80s. Some of you older people might remember them. I used to top them off with a little vodka every day and go to school with a nice buzz. Before and after every football game and basketball game, we got drunk. And then it was right around early junior high, I had my first hit of pot. It was okay. I didn't like it very much, to be honest with you, but I was a big drinker. So by ninth grade in high school, I was drinking a lot. Down in San Diego, there's a lot of, we'll call them immigrants now. We didn't call them that back then. Okay. But we'll call them immigrants. And they would buy you beer. You give them some money. You let them keep it a couple of bucks, and they buy you beer. So it was very easy to get beer, and we were drinking all the time. So, but then eventually, I remember I was driving with my friend Matt, and we were in high school, And I was talking to him about, man, I just can't get my fucking homework done. I don't know why. I want to do my homework, but I just can't do it. And he's all, I got something for you to get your homework done. And he gave me my first line of crystal meth. It was crank back then. Okay, so totally different from what they I don't even know if they make this stuff anymore, to be honest with you. But I know the crystal that's going around today is nothing like the crank from back then, which was basically a nasty tasting cocaine that lasted longer and it was cheaper. San Diego is pretty much where this all started because the Hells Angels were based in Southern California. They were working with the cartels, and there was a lot of crank being made out in the deserts, out in the backwoods, out in the back hills of San Diego, and that's where that epidemic started. So we were the proving ground, and and at this point, I stopped being a jock because I found myself attracted to the punk rock girls. So I started like as like a new romantic. I was like all into Tears for Fears and stuff, but that quickly turned into a punk rocker. And it was just because I liked the punk rock girls, and they weren't having any jocks at that time. So I'm like, forget it. I'm going to change my look. So that's what was my conscious decision. Plus, I started liking the music. I glossed over when I was a kid. I was a freaking nerd. I was such a nerd. Star Wars changed my life. I saw Star Wars. I was watching Star Trek. I was watching The Twilight Zone all the time. Official Dougie J, who you see in the chat, he was my childhood friend. He was one of my friends. So we nerded out all the time. So prior to all this, I was straight up nerd. Got my nerd chops up. Was reading comic books. That never stopped. No matter how punk rock I was and stuff, and no matter how high I was still reading Starlog magazine. Anything nerd I can get my hands on, I would obsess on it, especially when I was high. Okay, so I got hooked on speed pretty easily, and it was off to the races. And within a year, I used to wear contacts, and I wasn't smoking pot. I was really high on speed though, and I kept on getting kicked out of class because they thought I was stoned because my eyes were always red, and that's why I can't wear contacts. So I got kicked out of school so many times for supposedly being, and you didn't have to prove it back then. All the teacher had to say is he's stoned. So I got kicked out of school enough where they kicked me out of San Diego. It was San Diego High School in Encinitas. They kicked me out and they sent me to Sunset, which is a continuation school. That was like the worst move. A continuation school is for two types of kids: real fuck ups or real geniuses. Like the people who are too fast for high school, so they go and graduate in a year. And then there's the fuck ups, and I was part of the fuck ups. And of course, you put all the fuck ups in one place. Well, there's a lot of drugs there. So we were just, me and all the metalheads and all the punk rockers started hanging out, getting in fights, fucking skateboarding. And I got kicked out of Sunset Elementary School when I punched the principal. Yes, I punched the principal. The principal, Dr. Reisner, had it with me because I got caught. Oh, I got caught doing a line in class, and he was going to boot me, and that's what I got booted over. But yeah, and he just read me the riot act and told me I wasn't going to amount to anything. I think now thinking back, it was probably like, out of care, but all I heard was you're a fuck up and you're not going to amount to anything. So I popped him. Of course, the police got called. I got arrested, but then let go. And because he dropped the charges, and they kicked me out of school, and that was it. I went to another continuation school for Carlsbad High. That lasted a single day. So that's 3 high schools I got kicked out of. And this was, so I never made it out of 10th grade. Never made it out of 10th grade. So I started partying with all the metalheads and all the skaters. And this is where I met Melissa in high school. I used to follow her around. She was one of those punk rock girls I really liked. So the first time I saw her was a dance marathon at the high school I was still going. And it was the funniest story is I danced next to her for like 3 hours, but I never talked to her. And she dances with her freaking eyes closed. So I don't think she even knew I was there. So I'd follow her around, but apparently she knew I was following her around. So we met later, but I'm partying. And it's just like small time drug use at this point. It's just, we get like little quarters of crystal. My group, one of my friends, name was JD. He had this house that everybody hung out at. It turned into, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Crass House in England. It's like a punk rock house where it's very bohemian and anybody could live there, and you just got to pay your own stuff. And everybody chips in a little bit to pay the rent or whatever. That's kind of what this place was. It was his dad was an alcoholic and a bartender, and was gone. It was a bartender all day. He would leave all day, come back, lock himself in the room, drink himself to sleep, leaving JD on his own. So JD was renting out rooms in his house without his dad even like knowing, because he was so drunk. And that's where I ended up living. My parents at the time were going through hell watching me go through this. There was nothing they can do about it. I wasn't listening to them. They would tell me, they would try to ground me. I fucking wouldn't listen. I would, I'd sneak out of my own house. So if I was grounded, and this was when I still had a fear of my father, which I lost when I was like 15. If I was grounded, I would just wait until everybody went to sleep and sneak out of my house, and we go party all fucking night. And then I get home by 6. I started sneaking out the car. So I learned how to drive before fucking driving school or anything. Actually, the first time I learned how to drive a car was a stick, and I snuck my dad's car out. I was wasted, and yeah, just like within 10 minutes I learned how to drive a stick, and off to the races. So yeah, there was lots of partying. We don't need to get into details. I was having a good time. Despite getting kicked out of high school, I had a group of people that I identified with, that felt like family for the first time, and we were having all kinds of crazy fun. Amidst all this, we started the Rocky Horror Picture Show at a theater called the La Paloma. So all these drugged out fucking punk rockers went to the theater owner. Somehow, I don't know how we fucking did this. We got together, and we're like, we should do that. We went and saw the Rocky Horror Picture Show down in San Diego. Well, we should do that. That looks fun. So we talked to the theater owner. I think we talked him into it because he was a big time stoner, and one of our guys was selling him weed. So we offered him some weed and some money, and he let us start the Rocky Horror Picture Show at the La Paloma. It's still running to this day, which is awesome. That is brilliant. So that was our life. We would party all week. I don't know. Some of us worked. I worked on and off. I would get a job at a record store and get fired, and work on and off, but I'd always work at record stores. I just traveled around the record stores. So, but I also got money. We also started car hopping. So, so that we would go out at night and we break into cars. And back then people left their cars unlocked, all kinds of shit in their cars. And it was just easy pickings, especially in Encinitas, where it was considered safe and there was really no crime. But we were the crime wave. And that's how we funded our drug habit. Then I started selling drugs. Then I worked at the record store and was selling drugs out of the record store. We also had a guy who was selling drugs out of the drive-thru at McDonald's. And if you drove up to McDonald's, and this is the McDonald's on Encinitas Boulevard, if you asked for 2 large fries, you were going to get it. I wonder how many times he did it accidentally. But if you just asked for 2 large fries, that meant you wanted 2 quarters of crystal. It's just fucking craziness. So it was crazy. So we were doing Rocky Horror, all these little punk rock kids living in this house, unsupervised, partying every fucking day for this happened between the years 86 to about 89. We did it. I mean, I don't know how we lasted. Some people, listen, we lost some people. I OD'd a couple times. My friend JD OD'd a couple times. Things, as time went on, it started getting really dark. It really ended. It ended up this big party house that everybody would go to. And 4 years later, it was like 5 of us just being tweakers in a house with no power, no plumbing, nothing. The JD's dad had moved out. And eventually we got kicked out of the house because, the rent stopped getting paid and all that stuff. So, that's when I started living on the street, and I was living in either JD's car, The bush I had talked about by a Long John Silver's down in Encinitas. I lived under that for quite some time. I slept at the beach. I would sometimes break into my dad's motorhome. When my parents went on vacation, I broke into the house. Yes, there was a point where I stopped going home. And then I think I didn't go home for like a week sometime, and I went back, and my dad's all, "You don't live here anymore. The locks were changed," kicked me out, and I never went back. So I was, from 15, 16 on, I was on the streets on my own selling meth. And then I started getting into, the more and more I got into the meth crowd, I got out of the, hanging out with the punk rockers and hanging out with like the serious hardcore drug people. I met a guy, we'll just say his last name is Silva. He was a government worker, and he was making acid, and apparently he was distributing it to dead shows and stuff, and he needed a mule, so I would be the mule to get this stuff down to Mexico, which was just, well, now that I think about it, was like, what the fuck was I thinking? So I worked with him for a while. He taught taught me. I helped him. He cooked meth in his garage, so we were cooking meth in his garage. Got me hooked up with another guy who was cooking meth under a fucking bridge. Under a bridge out in the open. It's an off ramp called La Costa Avenue in Carlsbad, and this guy was homeless. I guess he had he had a trailer and he lost it, so he just took his operation under a fucking bridge and worked it out. I was helping him cook. I was helping Silva cook. I was muling stuff down to fucking Mexico and I was getting, I was getting pretty good money for this. So, that went on for a while, and Silva, will just say, was like a mentor to me. He was, I had no father figure in my life, and, he did look out for me. I was doing jobs for him, but he did like really try to look out for me, to the point where he even said, like, "You're doing a little bit too many drugs, man." Where the guy cooking it says you're doing too many drugs, it's bad. And I was high every day. I could not stop, did not want to stop. And I was young, so I wasn't even aware what kind of lifestyle and believe me, I'm glossing over a lot to get this story going. It was insane. It was fucking insanity. And I don't know how I survived. But luck, and I guess a little skill. I have good survivor skills. So managed to get down to Mexico and stuff. Never got arrested. I have been arrested in Mexico before, but that was for public drunkenness, and I didn't have money to buy off the cop. And if you don't have 40 or 60 bucks to buy off the cop and they nail you for public drunkenness, you're spending the night in a Tijuana jail, which is just, I don't recommend to anybody. It's really shitty. You got to fight for your life in there, or your butt. And I had to, and luckily I fought out. I was crazy enough to where I was a pretty decent fighter. And I was scared enough. And so that happened, and I started getting really, really careless. JD and I went back to Silva's house to give him his money because, as much as we respected him, so I would rip off, I would steal money from my mom. I would steal money from anybody, but I would not rob Silva. And it was just because the guy had done so much for me. I'm like, and I had many opportunities and I didn't. So we're bringing him back we had a wooden box that we would take down, and we were told to never open it. We handed it to somebody. That person opened it, took out what was it, which I'm assuming was acid. And he put back in money. So we would take back his money. I had the wooden box. We're rolling up to his house, and there's yellow jackets everywhere. ATF, all this shit. It was big drug raid. And we kept walking to the fucking house, and this yellow jacket stops us and goes, "What are you guys doing?" We're all and he just, before we even finish, he's all, "Turn around, walk away." And we're like standing, he's all, "Turn around and walk away." And we like start walking backwards, and that was out of the kindness of that guy's heart. He probably saw two dumb kids holding a fucking box, and just went, and I gave us a chance. So we got the fuck out of there and never went back. I did end up seeing him again in a bad place. So I started getting careless, hanging out like really, really. I mean, like Silva had his shit together. I started, but Kevin, who was the guy who was under the bridge, I started hanging out with him more. He got himself a place. But he was crazy. He was batshit crazy. He started losing it. He's like losing it to the fact where I lived with him and my on and off girlfriend at the time, Cece. Now, during all this, I'm kind of dating Melissa, but Melissa saw what an absolute fuck up I was. So I was kind of more of like her fuck buddy, really. And she would date other guys and then cheat on them with me, but she'd never want to like, we did the boyfriend girlfriend thing and she thought our life was a little too insane. So she's like, nah. So she had broke up. We got together like 3 times and she broke up with me all 3 times. I was a bad boyfriend. I had a bunch of girlfriends. I was able to hide the fact that I was high. So I would have like these really normal girlfriends and then like on the side lead this crazy life. It was, again, insanity. So to get this story going, I started getting careless, and the first time I got, or the second time I got like legit arrested, Kevin was in my 67 Oldsmobile. I had a 67 Oldsmobile. It was fucking badass. I had 22,000 original miles on it. My grandma's neighbor gave it to me for like nothing, for like $1,000. Loved that car. Kevin put a scale and like, I don't know, 6 ounces of meth under this front seat without me knowing. I got pulled over because I had Batman handcuffs. They used to have these plastic Batman handcuffs hanging from the rearview mirror. And there was a cop. Her name was Officer Babcock, who hated me, busted me for so much shit, but I kept on getting away with it. And so she took every opportunity. I mean, I put myself out there too. So she pulled me over, searched the car, off to jail I go. So off to jail for the first time. I had just turned 18. So I was old enough to go to jail and spent a little time in jail. Then my dad bailed me out. I told him the story. He believed me, and it was the truth. I mean, I was high, but I had no idea the drugs were in there. I had no idea there was a scale in there. They impounded my car. And then, of course, Kevin, being the great guy he was, blamed it all on me. My dad said, I'm going to bail you out and get you a lawyer once. And got me a lawyer, got me completely off on everything. And I got my car back, but I had to sell it to pay the lawyer, which totally sucked. But that's life. But I was free. Of course, this didn't stop me. I kept on doing drugs. My dad wouldn't let me back home or anything, so I was on the street. So I had to find new ways to survive. And I started breaking into houses because that's a great idea. And eventually got caught doing that multiple times. And how many times have I been? I have an arrest record. You know, when they say I have an arrest record you have an arrest record as long as your arm. I have one of those. So, yeah, so I'm a 2-time felon. I have done time in prison. I went to Folsom Prison. I was sentenced to 4 years. I did 25 months. I did 1 year behind the wall, which was maximum security. The story behind this is completely fucked up. If you know the California prison system, there's 4 levels. Level 1 is minimum. Level 2 is kind of minimum. And 3 and 4 are fucking serious criminals, rapists, murderers, nasty fucking people. So Folsom Prison was being transitioned from a maximum security to, not to it was just like a super max to a max. They built another one that was the super max, but in the meantime, they just thought it was a good idea to mix level 2 and level 4s. So I got celled with a guy a real nice guy, real wonderful guy. Killed two people for like a couple $100, and commenced to eat they had like some food. He ate their food while they were dead. So yeah, this and he just told me the story all nonchalant. So that was right away. I knew who the fuck I was. Actually, the first thing I remember, it was horrible. So and I've been to county jails before, and that's where I did the firefighter thing. By the way, my first year in the county, I if you qualified, you had to go through the fire training program, and it's legit. You got to do the same fire training program as any other firefighter. The thing is, they get you to fight fires for a lot less money because you're part of the prison or county jail system. So I did that for a year. Fucking loved it, by the way. It was, I mean, like I would have rather been free, but we fought 7 fires. It was fun. Then I ended up getting injured, and I'm super manipulative. I really was. And that's a story for another day. I got injured, and I was able to manipulate my way out early. I was such a good manipulative drug addict. I manipulated my way out early for that, but got out early, got busted again. That's when I went to prison. So, yeah, the first year sucked. I remember I was at a place called Donovan down in San Diego before I went to Folsom. They lost me in the system, so I got stuck there 4 months. You were only supposed to be there a month. When I was there, I ran into Silva. I ran into, you guys might have heard of a skateboarder named Gator. They did a couple of movies about him. He was a skater. He was friends with Tony Hawk. He ended up murdering his girlfriend. And it's a guy I casually knew down in San Diego. Saw him, saw Craig Pyre, who was the CHP officer who killed Kara Knott, that piece of shit. I got to see him. Yeah, and that's like all this is sinking, and like I am in this fucking horrible place. How did I get there? And I got out of the drug stupor going, holy shit. Now, my only experience with AA prior to going this was after I got arrested. My dad sent me to rehab, and my dad was all about like, I'll do something once and not do it again. And he was really good at that. My parents had cut ties with me completely, so we weren't having really any conversations or anything. One of the worst moments in my life, though, was getting sentenced in prison, and they decided to show up for that, which sucked. So end up going there, do my time, had this horrible cellmate, got in some fights because I was young. I was 22. I was 22 in this super max scary fucking place. So yeah, you sleep with one eye open. Honestly, after besides a few fights, it ended up being just horribly boring. It's like boredom mixed with moments of terror. Read a lot of books, read a ton of books. My God, I read hundreds of books. I read the entire Stephen King library. I got, while I was in there, I started contacting my parents again. We started writing, and then they started sending me books, and I just read. I learned, I went, there was a printing program, so I learned how to be a printer, which I never used. And then about halfway through, they realized that having the level 2s with the level 4s was like an immensely bad idea. And I guess there's some lawsuit that was going down. So they immediately started putting everybody into just lower security, So I ended up going to what was a camp. It was just outside of Folsom. So it's minimum security. And it's for people like for level 2s who don't have a lot of time left, and they're not going to go anywhere. They just want to do their time and leave. So I did my second year in a relatively comfortable camp. Now, that does not mean it's still prison. Shit still went down. Fights still happened. There was 2 riots while I was there. One of them being 4 days before I got out, which sucked. And yeah, I just did my time there. I got a little job. And here's the thing. It actually worked. The rehabilitation actually worked with me. I had never really known what it was like to get up morning, go to work every day, and I got this job in the procurement office where I was, I would just type up prison drug orders. So I did that for a year and I kind of liked it, got good at typing. I was in an office. So it was like this normal office setting, like the office. And there was this girl, my supervisor, her name was Missy Missildine. She liked the color purple. She always wore purple. And she like me too'd the shit out of me. She was like grabbing my ass and stuff like that. I'm like, whatever, I'm like doing my time, whatever. So I was this young kid working. Yeah, I can see why she handpicked me. I don't know. But if you guys want a good laugh, when you hear the male privilege, the privilege card. Yeah, I got a privilege card right here. This is my privilege card. I'll never get rid of this. So again, everybody who knows me knows this. So I don't care. I don't care. The one thing that I got tired of doing, even with Tesla, is I got tired of fucking lying about it on applications. So with Tesla, I decided to test it and I told the fucking truth for the first time. I wrote it down. I'm like, yep. Told them what went down, and to Tesla's credit, didn't blink. They didn't even blink. They also saw, and the reason I'm telling this story, it was 25 years ago. It was December 7th, 1993. I walked out of that prison. And it was that day. And like I said, prison sucked. Prison fucking sucked. Sucked so much I never wanted to go back. And it really, sobriety started becoming a thought. I'd been to the Betty Ford Center prior to going to prison. I went there for 30 days. It didn't help. At the time, Palm Springs was a big spring break location. It was during spring break. Got out of the Betty Ford Center with 5 guys and went to a party our asses off afterwards. But it was fun. The food was good. Got to see Charlie Sheen and Eddie Van Halen. It was fun. But then went to prison, got out. So I got out with $200, nothing to my name. The clothes I went in with didn't fit. I was like really heavy when I went in, and in prison I decided to like work out a lot, played a lot of racquetball, got in shape. I got really sick in there too. But I had a stomach virus, which sucked. You don't really want to get sick in a place like that. And but everything, I ended up getting out on time, actually early. So I did 25 months, and it's been 25 years since I got out, which is fucking awesome. It's great. It's a good feeling. But that day, the day I got out, was like one of the greatest days of my life. And it's right up there with Logan being born and Mary and Melissa and Indigo. It's right up there because that was, I really appreciated the freedom I had. I could just go take a walk. And the feeling of just being able to go take a walk whenever I wanted to, and I didn't have anybody looking at me, no guns being pointed at me from a tower, not being called a number or convict, being called by my name, nothing. There's nothing like an 8-hour bus ride, shackled, wrists and ankles, and like squished on this bus and drove from San Diego to Sacramento, which was it was like 12 hours. It's fucking horrible. Hours in court buildings, just like shit I haven't thought about in a long time, to be honest with you, unless I tell these AA stories. So that was the greatest day ever. My parents came and picked me up. I had the first place I ate was a Denny's. I had a Grand Slam. It was the best food I ever fucking had. I went home. After the long drive, my parents said, you can stay here for a month. You need to get a job and get out. I'm like, okay, that's fair. I needed some clothes. So I took my $200 and I bought some pants and a shirt and went to look for a job. Official Dougie J, who you've seen in there, was kind enough to give me a job. I was on parole for 3 years. My parole officer always was very suspicious. He didn't think I had it in me to not go back. In prison, I had been going to AA meetings just to get out, but the shit started sinking in. So I started going to AA meetings. When I first got out, I went and visited some old friends real quick, and I got the picture real quick that if I hung out with them, I was going to go right back to it. So I visited him. I said hi. It was nice, and did not visit them again. I was like, I'm done. I am fucking done with this. And started going to meetings, and it stuck. I was not going to go back to that place. I really kept to myself. I got a gym membership. I got a job. Started working at the warehouse with Doug. It was a lot of fun. And then my parents saw that I was doing well, so they're like, "You can stay here for a little longer." And in AA, I met a girl who I had met previously in a rehab. Her name was Lane. We ended up getting married, but we were dating, and yeah, my life was just like watching Star Trek, working at the warehouse, going to movies, going to AA. Started having a normal life for the first time in my life, and for that's the way it was for a long time. Mended fences with my parents. Me and my dad became best friends, and as more time, went on, yeah, I built up some sobriety time, and things were good. This was the 90s, so things were awesome. There's not a lot to report. I needed a better job than the warehouse, so I started. I had no skills, and that was like the fear I had. I got in there. I'm like, I have no skills. I have no education. I have no skills. What the fuck am I going to do with my life? And I started thinking about that like 2 years in. So I finished high school through a correspondence course. I started high school over again and completed it in 2 years through this correspondence course. And so I graduated, and through the course, I was able to graduate from the school I went to. So I ended up graduating from San Diego officially in 98, like 10 years after I was supposed to graduate. Started auto parts delivery driving because the money was good at the time, and it was a pretty chill job. It didn't require a lot of experience. I knew how to drive. Through that, I started meeting people in auto shops. One of them took a liking to me, offered a management job. I'm super great. Mark Crosby is like one of the best people ever for doing that. His business started going downhill, so he had to let me go, which kind of sucked, but he got me another job, which I'm forever grateful to this guy. And I got a job at a Honda dealership. And then I met, through there, I had a coworker named Scott. We became good friends. And Scott's dad was the parts director for all the dealerships. Scott was kind of a curmudgeon that nobody could get along with. And somehow I was the only person who was able to get along with him. His dad was super grateful. So his dad bumped me up because I was able to, chill his son out and kept his son focused on his work. So through that, his name was Terry Edwards, another guy I'm super grateful for, because I wouldn't have been able to do anything without him. So I got my first real big boy job. They taught me parts. They taught me about cars, taught me how to work on cars. So I started making some real money for the first time in my life, and started learning a skill. And that was awesome. In the meantime, of course, I'm still a nerd. I'm still reading comics. I'm still, watching movies, hanging out with Doug and stuff. And things were great. Got married. It was pretty cool at first. Me and my dad were best friends, everything. Then my dad got real sick. He got cancer. So he got colon cancer, and he got into remission, then went back out. And in 2001, my dad passed away. In the meantime, my marriage was kind of eroding. We were becoming two different people. I was starting to get really creative again, getting really into comics. I was drawing a comic book, and I wanted to do something in comics. My wife was not into it at all. She didn't like my toy collecting. She didn't like my comic collecting. And it was really me kind of pointing my obsessive compulsive at something good. And I loved comics, and I'd always been collecting comics. And the comics were the one things I didn't sell for fucking drugs, which was weird. And my mom didn't throw them away. Even when I got kicked out of the house, my comics were always there, and they meant a lot to me. She didn't like it. That was part of it. We just grew apart. And after my dad passed away, I remember vividly our last conversation where he was, lucid. We had some conversations before, but he was on morphine, and it was really, he was out of it towards the end. I remember dripping morphine on his tongue. And it was beyond hospice. Like, it was just waiting for him to die. And that's me and my sister would take shifts, and that took a toll on us too. That took a huge toll on me. Because I kind of we just had a relationship for the first time in my life. For a few years, I had a dad. And so yeah, he passed, and my brain went spinning a little bit, and I was just not, I don't know. I didn't want to be in San Diego. I didn't want to work. I wanted more. I wanted more out of my life, because when our last conversation, my dad, uh, he first he said, "I don't think Elaine is right for you, you guys," because she was always, everything I did kind of pissed her off, and I tried for a long time to just, I was not being me. And my dad recognized that, and he told me, he's like, "Don't let anybody stop you from being you. You be you. Don't be ashamed." He's all, "Don't let me stop you." And he was always sorry for, like, not really supporting my art and stuff. But he was like, when I was a kid and I played baseball, he went to every game. My dad went to every fucking game. So it's not like he wasn't attentive. But he just really wasn't into the art, but he didn't understand it. So that really sticks to me to this day. I have a saying, Melissa and I both kind of share this saying, is don't let anybody slow your roll. And sometimes that means discarding friends to achieve your goals. It might sound a little selfish, but I think it's a real good thing to have healthy boundaries with friends and people, especially when you like get involved with people creatively. I've made a ton of mistakes with that too. So yeah, so dad dies. Melissa, Elaine and I divorce, and I, on a whim, just said, I'm going to give San Francisco a try. I'm kind of fucking done down here. And it sucks because what sucked was I gave up a really good job. I was working at Acura with Scott. I was making really good money. Had tons of disposable income, had a condominium where I was like, I owned it outright. I owned it outright. I bought my first, through sobriety, I got my first house. Through the city of Escondido, you were able to get like a $5,000 grant if you qualified, and we qualified. And I bought a little condo for $35,000, sold it for $250,000 5 years later. So then my dad passed away, and my dad was a very successful accountant. He was Ted Geisel's accountant, which is Dr. Seuss. He had done some movie stuff. So I got some inheritance from dad, and so did my sister. My mom got most of it, of course, which she deserved, and like there was never any problem with that. So I moved to San Francisco, just divorced, had a lot of money, and Melissa and I had been, she had found me through classmates.com. This was prior to Facebook. So we were just chit chatting. There's nothing really real, but then we started chit chatting more and more and more and more, because we were always like best friends, like throughout all this, even though when I was drugged out and everything. And she was always there to, like, sometimes she'd give me a place to sleep. She was always there. She was always there for me. And I just didn't like, and I was too much of my own shit to notice it until later. So, yeah. So I was like, "Hey, I'm going to move up there." She's like, "Okay, cool. Right on." She's like, "You can stay here for a little while." And, so yeah, at this point we're kind of dating, right? So we're dating. It was not my intention to like move in and live with her. I was going to like stay there for a couple weeks, get my own place up here. And it just turned into like, she's all, "Why don't you stay here?" And we stayed there, and yeah, and that was it. So yeah, to speed this up, a couple kids happen. I start a comic store. I was in San Francisco for 1 year. I was working at Oakland Acura. I was going through the want ads, and I see a big comic collection for sale. And I called Melissa. I'm like, "Hey, because my plan was to have a comic store when I retired. I'm like, hey, there's this huge comic collection for sale for $2,500. I think I'm going to pull the trigger." She's like, "Cool, let's go check it out tonight." So we check it out, and it's immense. I mean, and they said you can, there's some valuable stuff in here, but a lot of it is also ran comics. But it'd be great stock for a store. And it was immense. It was 300 long boxes full of comics. So I'm talking to the guy, and he wants $2,500. I'm all, "For real? Real? You just want $2,500 for all this?" He's all, "Yeah, whatever." He's all, in the meantime, I'm going to a comic store called the Comic and Card Outpost, and we get to talk, and he's all, "Yeah, that's for sale." I'm all, "Really? That's cool. I might want to buy it. Let's see what he wants for it." So me and Melissa talk. Melissa's all, "Buy it now. Why wait for retirement?" Because I wasn't going to do it. I was like, "I'll wait. I kind of, my job's okay. I'm making good money." She's all, "Why wait? Let's do it." So, okay. So we talked to Russ, and of course, you guys have heard the story. He wanted cash, and I went to the bank to get the cash, and the one bank said, "We don't have that much cash. You got to go downtown." I went downtown. They had just locked up all their big bills, so I had to give $30,000 in 20s and fives and tens in a backpack, which was, so you've heard that story before. So the comic store changed my life. It was God, it was almost, it felt like what I was meant to do. It was a lot of fun. I got to live this crazy cool life. Sold comic books for 10 years, went to conventions, met fucking people I never thought I'd meet. Like, I met Chewbacca, I met Mark Hamill, I met fucking MC Hammer. I mean, and all of a sudden this guy he used to live on the street and fucking been to prison and stuff, is like living this fun life, living this comic, and it was great. It was fucking great. Had a great time. Turns out I was a pretty decent businessman. The only studying I had ever done is I read the book Small Business for Dummies, and I mean, I just breezed through it a little bit. And I learned on the fly, made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, then started getting really good at it. Problem is, the shit went to my head. And it started going more and more to my head, and all that attention like ended up, I had stopped going to meetings, because we just got busy. Our kids were young. Melissa had started, just real quick, Melissa, when she was first pregnant with Logan, we thought she miscarried, and it turned out to be just like a blood clot or something like that, but it looked like a miscarriage. So we thought we lost Logan, and that's when Melissa decided, like, hey, she wanted to open her own salon, but she was going to wait if the baby was there. But since she thought she lost Logan, we're going to go ahead with their own business. And we pulled the trigger on that. And that was tough, but we were going through it. And then, we went to Coachella. I remember we went to Coachella, and she was like smoking and drinking, and and we get back and I'm like noticing her. I'm like, I don't know a nice way to say this, babe, but you're still gaining weight. Why are you still gaining weight if you're not pregnant anymore? Is this something I'm missing? Something I'm not knowing? She's all, yeah, I know, it's weird. And I'm starting to feel things. I'm all, weird. So we start suspecting that she might not have. We don't know what, it could have been something horrible. We're not sure. So much so her parents flew up immediately, and we got the little sonar, whatever thing, and we see a kid in there. We're like, holy fuck. Holy fuck. So it turns out Logan was just breech. Turns out it was just a clot, and we still have a kid, and oh shit, you just started a business. So Melissa started a business pregnant, had birth, gave birth, missed a week of work, a week and a half, and then went back to work. So we had grandma take care of the kid. Then I took care of the kid because her business is more attentive, and plus her business was making much more money. Let's be frank. So yeah, I would have a little pin there, and I was, taking care of Logan in my shop. Thing is, once the shop got busier, and that's when I finally started to take on employees and stuff too. The shop got busier, and they both were really successful, and it started being a major strain on the relationship. That shit went to my head, and I relapsed. So right now I am coming up on 5 years sobriety. So about 9 years in to the Comic Outpost. We had won Best of the Bay. We had a reputation of being one of the best comic stores in Northern California. We had people coming to visit our store from other countries. We had the biggest Doctor Who section. Even after I relapsed and was high, I was still like doing well. That was the bad part about it. Like I was like doing very well. And what is So I decided to pick up a Coke habit because I'd never done Coke before. And what is the saying for Coke? Coke is God's way of telling you have too much money. And yeah, so got real humbled real quick. Now, before everything absolutely fell apart, I was going to close the store because I realized because all that sobriety really fucks up your high. It really does. So it was a short relapse, but it was long enough to almost destroy the comic store, almost destroy my marriage. And I decided to close it. I was just like, I'm going to close it. I'm going to go to rehab. And if I want to open it again someday, I'll open it again someday. Brian, uh he found out what was going on and said, hey, like let's keep this place open for the people. I'll buy it from you. We worked out a price that I could live with, and I sold it to him. And that was because it shouldn't have closed. Like, it was doing well. Like, the reason I decided to close it because I was wasting so much freaking money on drugs. It was just breaking even, and it was just straining everything. But it's not like the business was bad. The business wasn't bad. It was going gangbusters. So unfortunately, Brian did not maintain that business, which kind of sucks. But he saved it, and I'm always grateful for him for that. So I got my shit together again, started going to meetings, and that's where this kind of happened. So when you hear Dennis and I tell the story about we were both in shitty times in our life, that's where I was in my life. I had just sold my store. I had just gotten sober again. And I'm like, fuck, I need to do something fun. So, and I was living in a sober living environment. So, like, Melissa and I weren't going to get divorced, but it could have been close. It might've been close. And we had to see how things were going to work out. So I went to the sober living environment and I did everything I was supposed to do. I got my sponsor, got clean again, surrounded myself with sober people, went to fucking 90 meetings in 90 days, actually more. I was going to 2 or 3 meetings a day for 3 months. And didn't work. I just like focused on sobriety, had enough money. But then I had to get a job again. So I went back to the automotive industry because that's what I knew. And it was, it was good money, but I thoroughly hated it. Like I mean, the reason I didn't, after I did something so creative and fun, it was, and been a boss, it was really, really hard to go back. And like, it was a good lesson in humility. It was a good lesson in humility to have a boss again, especially one that's like younger than you. It's like, oh fuck, man, my higher power is fucking with me right now, but in a good way. So it was rough. It was, the first couple years were rough. I was going to meetings. But I ended up going back home, um, you know, talking to the kids, and through time, mended fences. And honestly, the family life is better than ever, better than ever. And this podcast has been part of it. Like, it's been a real part of giving me something to do creative. Like, I don't know. I don't think I could have done it without it, to be honest with you. And it started out as just like a fun thing, a fun hobby. And it's turning into something else, which we'll see where it goes. But yeah, for 5 years, it has just been, I really don't go out that much anymore. I take my sobriety, I had 17 years sober when I relapsed. 17 years. So yeah, that was a bitter pill to fucking swallow. Oh, and when I relapsed, I relapsed on completely new drugs. Um, and what led to it actually was, it's the man, I don't even like talk about it. It was like it's tragic. What led to the relapse was an injury. So I'll tell the story real quick. I was hanging up a Superman Returns banner, which I have in this house. I will always keep it now as a memory of this. I was hanging up a Superman Returns banner, and I had a big fold-up ladder, and I was folding the ladder back up, and it folded on my thumb, and it just crushed my thumb to the point where I could hold a lighter under this thumb. I have no feeling on it whatsoever. It crushed it like that flat. I can tell you, I have broken bones. I have been in fights. I have a scar from an orbital orbital bone breakage. I've broken my ankle many times in football. I've broken my fingers in fights. I've broken my wrists in fights. I've broken my wrists in skateboarding. Nothing fucking hurt as much as me crushing my thumb. It's a pain that would not go away. They had to drill a hole in my nail, and it started doing the Monty Python blood thing. But the guy prescribed me Vicodin, and I was in so much pain, and I knew better. I took it, and boom, off to the races. Off to the fucking races. And within months, I was trying to get off the Vicodin. So I thought speed would be a good reason to, because I was like just in a drug stupor at this point. And then I got hooked on Coke. So I got off the Vicodin, but I got hooked on Coke. So it did work, but not really. And and it just all like that all happened in a very short amount of time. So when they have a thing called a progressive disease, it's called a progressive disease. Like your addiction grows, even if if I'm sober for 17 years and I decide to pick up the drugs again 17 years later, it's like I've been doing drugs for 17 years. So the tolerances grow, everything grows. So within a very short amount of time, I was going from like little lines of Coke to ginormous lines of Coke, and completely fucking up my nose and everything. And this was like in a very short amount of time, almost flushed out everything I had done since 1993. This life I had built out, almost flushed it completely down the toilet in a year. So thankfully, I mean, just like on the brink, I came back. And to this day, it's one day at a time. I mean, you're never fully back. So, and that's what I do now. I go, I went back into the auto industry, and, frankly, I 3 jobs in 5 years. I've never hopped around jobs that much. I usually like staying in a place. But I was not happy. And the plan was always like, I'm going to go back to comics. I'm going to go back to comics. And we'll make this podcast part of the comic store, which is something I wanted to do with the Comic Outpost and could never get the people to do it. Not realizing that I could have just done it on my own. At the Comic Outpost, like not everything was perfect. I tried to bring in business partners. I tried to do creative things with people. And a lot of times that shit just doesn't work out. That's why bands break up sometimes. And even with friends, lost a few friends on the way because of weird entitlement. And I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. I always wanted to bring my friends along with me with the comic store and everything, but shit always got weird. It always got weird, and I don't know why. Well, I mean, I do. It's like, I tried that whole being the boss, but being the friendly boss thing for a while. It never fucking works. It doesn't mean you need to be a mean boss, but you got to have like healthy boundaries with that. So yeah, my life in the last 5 years has been podcasting, going to meetings, going to work, saved up enough money to get the comic store going again. Wanted to wait for the 5-year, which will be up in 2 days, by the way. 2 days, it's up. So I have a 5-year non-compete when I sold to Brian, and in 2 days I will be able to sell comics in San Francisco. Where the status of that is right now is Diamond is willing to work with me. To what end, we don't know. They're dragging their feet because I don't think they want to, but I think they have to. My relationship with Diamond Comics distributors was not good at the end. There was money squabbling going at the end. I feel like I've paid them everything. They don't. And I also went through a personal bankruptcy at the end to save my house. And Diamond's done some illegal things. We worked some stuff out. I did pay them money, but they're not, part of bankruptcy is they are not to take that deal. They are not supposed to ask for a debt afterwards. And they have. I could prove it. I could actually sue them for that, but I won't, because they knew I wanted to come back. So now they're kind of stringing me along a little bit, but that's fine. I actually, with the channel's success, I'm willing to wait a little bit on the comic store now anyway, because if I fired everything up right now, it would kind of screech everything to a halt with the channel. And honestly, the channel's doing gangbusters right now, and it'd be insane to stop it. So that's something I'm still mulling over. Melissa and I we don't fight. My kids are doing pretty good. My son Logan is on the spectrum, but you really can't tell. He's lightly on the spectrum. He's got a little bit of OCD, but just a great kid. Just a great kid. My oldest son, Indigo, he's finding his way now. He had gone through a lot with the whole addiction thing, and he was like, it's not like Logan was like a little too young. He kind of knew what was going on, but it affected Indigo. Indigo's doing well now. He's down in SoCal. He's a supervisor for UPS. He's going to school. He's coming up for the holidays, and everything is cool. We have a great relationship now, and everything is good. That is, I don't know how long I've been going now, but that is the Cliff Notes version. Believe me, there's a much longer. And if you guys want to bail out as a patron after that, I totally understand. But that's the insane life. Now, everybody has their ups and downs. I don't think my life is any more insane than anybody else's, but it was different. It was really different. But it's really learning from making those mistakes, learning from the mistakes, surviving some crazy shit that, I mean, I didn't tell you it all, believe me. I'd like some crazy dangerous stuff. I've had guns pointed at me. I've had guns fired at me. I've been in fights where I was getting beat to almost death. I've OD'd. Lived on the streets. Some shitty stuff, but what does not kill you makes you stronger. And it really is a good grade on like the grading curve of life. I always remember, no matter how shitty things get, it's like, well, at least I'm not in prison. Yeah, I've got that. It's like, yeah, things might be shitty right now, but at least I'm not in prison. So, yeah. And honestly, lately things have been great. I wasn't, when I quit Tesla, I didn't have a second thought. It felt like the right thing to do. I had had enough. It really wasn't all their fault. I would say it was more me. It was like, I was just done. I was done working for corporate America. I don't believe in the Tesla dream. I'm not a rah corporate guy. I don't think I ever have been. And that's not to judge people who are. I'm just different. It doesn't make me better. It doesn't make me worse. Doesn't make you. I mean, if you're, it just wasn't for me. Now, it's a great, I mean, as far as places to work, honestly, the best benefits, they treat their employees the best. They overwork them a little bit, but that's kind of everywhere. I skipped over me working in Hollywood. Yeah, that was during, and I've told that story before, during the little recession. We weren't making that much money, so I needed to take on a partner, and I started working in Hollywood. I took a 4-month class to become an editor, and it worked. And I became an editor and doing digital compression and pre-mastering technician for Technicolor. That all happened over the course of 2 years, and that's also, everything has kind of led to this. That's what I'm really glad I know how to edit now, because it's kind of paid off. So yeah, family life is good. I got and all that. I met my birth mother, and we have a good relationship. I found out I had a little sister, so we have a great relationship. Her and I talk all the time. And she's a little spitfire. She's funny. Her name is Chamisa. I love her to death. And she's like a girl version of me. Which I don't, it's much better. It's much better. And, yeah. So we can get to the chat a little bit. I guess Finobi's out. Don't be sorry. That went on way too long. Oh, thanks, Viking bitch. I've told it a lot. So it's taken the sting out. I remember the first time I had to tell it, man, my knees were shaking and I got all emotional and stuff. Now it's a story. It's a story. So for new patrons, you're probably like, what the fuck? This is something I've actually told. If you watch our American Gods, our first American Gods recap, I said it there. So that's not everything I haven't said on the channel before. So, but that's where you know where I'm coming from. So, yeah, I might have we all have different perspectives on life. We do, for lack of a better term. And yeah, so yes, I'm a firm believer in hard work, and hard work pays off. Persistence pays off. If you do things the right way, it's not going to always work, and things are going to blow up in my face once in a while. And sometimes I can do everything perfect, and it still doesn't work. Doesn't mean you quit. Doesn't mean you stop. And it's also like learning how to evolve with the situation, and always try to look at stuff with even me ripping Doctor Who, always trying to look at stuff with compassion. you know um like most of the stuff I do in the channel is very tongue-in-cheek. It's very tongue-in-cheek. And yeah, we're not super judgmental here. And you I hope you understand why. So let's get to the chat a little bit. Oh, I need some coffee too. And don't be sorry to have to go. Bye, Movie Finobi. Ah. So, but I felt it was a better idea to do. Thanks, Truth Apocalypse. Yeah, I thought it was better to do it on Patreon with than the big channel. It probably wouldn't have been a good idea. I don't know about. I have sponsees, and yeah, and the importance, I guess, if you're not familiar with A and NA, of telling that story is to show people that, like, yeah, it's so people can identify with you, because within my story, everybody hears a piece of their own story in addiction. They'll find something. It doesn't matter where you're from. We all have us addicts and alcoholics have the commonality of being addicted. The cool thing about AA and NA is, I mean, some people can kind of look at it as a cult, but it really is the like a really open and non-judgmental place. And it's a miracle that it works. It's a miracle that this thing has existed for so long and hasn't been infested by politics or scandal or anything, because it's leaderless. It has no fucking leader, and it's and it's not like it's yeah, it's just filled with it's you're down to the basics. It's people. We don't let don't not sweating the small stuff is a saying in AA. We just, when you get in there, it's all we want is to get you sober. Whatever you do beyond that is what you do. Nobody judges you. That's why we can have that's why it's just weird that politics hasn't screwed it up. And it's because it isn't profit driven, it isn't leader, it is just, and it's people doing it on their own. It's not some government organization or private corporate organization. It's just a bunch of people doing it on their own. And this thing has started, and it's everywhere now. And it's really and the key to being sober really is just hanging out with sober people once in a while. I love going. I mean, I love going to meetings. I freaking dig it. It's my social hour. We go every Monday. I go to a meeting. We hang out, do the meeting for an hour. Then me and my friend Bill and my friend Mike, we go to a pizza place and have pizza. And we have the same fucking, because Bill likes his pizza a certain way because he's one of those particular eaters. So we just get Bill's pizza and eat it. And it's okay. It's like an hors d'oeuvre. He likes it overcooked. He likes like the really crispy crust, whatever. But it's the best time, and we just hang out and we talk about movies and stuff. And Bill's the guy I was talking about. He's a writer. He's a former writer from Hollywood, so he's full of good information. Does anybody blame you like that card, huh? That was funny. Yeah, it's OG Spock Love. You say, I wish I could forgive like you, Gary. It took me a long time to get there, but That's one of the things that wasn't worked out, and it leads to relapse. It does. And that's one of the things I had to research after I relapsed. It's like, well, obviously I didn't do all my work. Because we could sit there and uh, victimhood is nowhere to live. It's nowhere to live because it's a life of submission. I mean, you get victimized. People get victimized, and there is victims out there, and they are real victims, and they need to be talked to and dealt with compassion. But as time goes on, there's a point where you got to get out of that, or you're not going to move forward, or I'm not going to, I'll use I statements, or I'm not going to move forward. So if I'm going to just be mad at this dude forever and want to kill him and, all that shit, um, it's not going to help me at all. I mean, this happened like 40 something years ago. So, yeah, it was just, I don't know what happened to him. And at this point, it's not healthy for me to look into it. So it's just like, forgive him, let it go, move on. It was a long time ago. And yeah, and honestly, is one of the best things I've ever done. Uh, you aced your last final. Well done, Matthew. Well, enjoy your time off, and then it's get your ass to work. That's well done. Enjoy this one though, man. And you're welcome. Yeah, I hope I didn't freak too many people out. But yeah, that's but honestly, like one of the most fulfilling things right now is helping other addicts. That's because it helps me. It helps me. But when it works, yeah, fuck, it feels so good. It feels so good because we're saving lives. I always make that like especially when I was working in Hollywood and how serious people took their fucking work, and everyone's like, dude, we're not saving lives here. We're putting out a Thor movie. We're helping put out a Thor movie on the secondary market. We're not saving lives. But this like AA is saving lives, and but it's like saving lives the long way. It's and the hard way. Trying to get through people's heads is fucking hard. I put up, oh my God, rationalization is a thing that the addicts are quite good at. And manipulation and telling people what they want to hear. And I want pizza. Yeah, I'm starving right now. OG Spot Club. I can only have pizza once a week though. I can only do that stuff once a week. Um, uh, Even though I don't have that addiction thing, I did hear myself, and parts of that story shows we are all human and have faults and can overcome them. Absolutely, truth apocalypse. And I wish there was an AA for just like regular folk that you could. I mean, there's Al-Anon, and I'm sure everybody's been touched by alcoholism and addiction in some way. Everybody has. And that's what Al-Anon is for. Al-Anon is for people, and that's what saved my marriage. Is Melissa went to Al-Anon and started understanding the disease concept. And yeah, yeah. I wished it's really good. It's life school. That's what AA is, life school. And there's some of us who really suck at life, and we need to go to life school. So we go to life school and we get better at it. The thing is, it never ends. Like this, I don't get cured. I'm not going to ever be cured. Like I am a one hit away from going back again, one day away. So that's where when we say one day at a time, that was the hardest concept because I'm such a future tripper and stuff, is like I need to really just stay here. That was something I had a hard time with because when I was growing up, here was hell. So I always wanted to, that's why I got into escapism. That's why I feel like, that's why comic books saved my life, because I was reading a Batman comic by a flashlight under a bush where I was living when I was 17 years old. So I needed to be somewhere else. I needed to be in Gotham City following around Batman and not in Encinitas sitting under a bush. That's where it absolutely helped, and yeah. Uh, I like that. Not giving up, moving on with life the best I can. Nerdrotic podcast helps a lot. I'm glad it does. Yeah, don't give up, man. As Tyrion Lannister says, life is just full of opportunities. It is. It is. Support is everything, OG Spock Love. If I didn't have Melissa, my kids, Bill, my sponsor, oh my God, my sponsor, I fucking love that dude so much. Really one of the coolest people in the world. Um, and my friends at AA, my friends and non-AA friends, and you guys, God, you guys don't know how much you've helped me. Like I can't even express how much this podcast has helped me. Um, yeah, I can't imagine what it was like. Yeah, big hug to Truth Apocalypse. I give big hug to you, Truth Apocalypse. A good hug, it helps, man. It really does. Little human interaction. It's nice. But yeah, you guys, just having a place to hang out and talk and just talk just about bullshit. It's which is my favorite thing to do. The one thing, I mean, like the comic shop wasn't all fun. Okay. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work with not a lot of money. Um, and quite honestly, some of the creatives in the industry are quite foul. And that was a hard thing to find out. That was a hard thing to find out. That was. There's a lot of just nasty, nasty stuff. That's why I got my fucking ass out of Hollywood. Like I couldn't get out of there fast enough. I knew immediately when I got there, I'm like, oh, this is bad. This is bad. Um, so yeah, 46 to 14,000. What? I haven't been paying attention. I guess that new video is kind of taken off the Rotten Tomato ones. The Rotten Tomato score went down to 40%. Thanks, Mary. Hug to you. And man, I'm sorry about your MRI. I finally read the message. Sorry it took so long. Holy shit. I don't know how you do it. That the strength it takes, like I would be I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I have a bulging, I have an arthritic back. So I have a bulging disc as well. I just live with it because I don't want surgery. And it hurts a lot, but actually the more active I am, the less it hurts. As weird as that sounds, but I can imagine going through what you're going through. I mean, I know. And I, watching my dad, I mean, that's something I glossed over because it's really raw still for me. Um, yeah, just watching what my dad went through, man, it could have made me, and it almost did make me really bitter. Like I was really fucking bitter when that happened. And my poor ex-wife, I was probably not fun to be around. I was probably not a lot of fun to be around right then. And yeah, that sucked. Going through that just fucking sucks. It is horrible. Um, I Hunter S. Thompson, the great Hunter S. Thompson, I loved Hunter S. Thompson. I understand why he did it. I absolutely understand why he committed suicide. Um, man, I was trying to get my dad to smoke pot and everything. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't fuck. No, I'm like, dude, come on. I'll show you how. And I was sober at the time, but I was like, come on, because it really would have helped him with the pain and stuff. He just wouldn't do it. I offered to go but he was worried about my sobriety. And I'm like, well, shit, get Terry to do it. Terry was, smoking pot. She didn't offer to help though. Treating pain with minimal use of medication or surgery is my whole profession. God's work, Matthew Matson. You are doing God's work. We need more of you doing that. I mean, listen, pain medication has its place. Okay. There are people in fucking horrendous pain that need to take a Vicodin. I totally get it. And there's a lot of people out there who can take them as prescribed. And that is fine. That is good. I'm not saying take them away, but we need more people like Matt out there who are, I think the interaction, I think having somebody there helps too. like somebody to help you through it. Yeah, that's what, the whole rehabilitation. I went through rehabilitation with, just minor rehabilitation when I busted my ankle like really good. And it was helpful. The Hunky Chunky Funky Monkey, what's up? I have two. Yeah, I know you. Oh man, I have two bulging discs and they won't operate because they thought it might make things worse. That's what I've heard. In addition to all the other shit caused by my condition, which you told me about, which I'm sorry, man. I'm struggling at the time. I envy those who can stay strong. It's hard. And that's why we have people like Matt. Um, and congratulations, my friend. And yeah, that's awesome that you do that. Uh, yeah, it takes a brave person to do that because you have to deal with people in pain and they are not fun sometimes. And it's understandable though. When you're in it for so long, like the Hunky Chunky Funky Monkey and Mary are just in it all the time. I don't know what to say to you other than I'm sorry, and I hope like any moment that we can help you not think about it is a good moment. Is a good moment. Yeah. And we're finding that, as I talk to other YouTubers once in a while, and the thing that does that kind of amazes us all and kind of brings a reality to what we do is the fact that we are keeping people company sometimes. Hell, that's why I listen to live. That's when I used to listen to audiobooks, or that's why I used to like live TV. Because when I was feeling like completely alone, at least it felt like somebody was there. I know it sounds weird, but it's true. Um, and this way you can interact with people, and it's a real interaction. All right, we're not like just bullshitting here. I know for a fact I'm gonna fuck up his reputation, but Doomcock, like honestly, truly cares about every single one of his patrons, like to the point where it stresses him out that he can't contact everybody. It truly gets to him. I mean, he's like he's a very passionate person with a huge heart. So yeah. And I try to do my best as well. Um, this has all happened so fast. And I know some may consider this still a small channel. This is huge. This is like, this is opening doors that I didn't think would be open yet. And this might be changing some stuff. Not necessarily here at the channel, just like what I'm going to do. Like, I've been planning on doing a comic store, nose to the grindstone, no doubt in my mind whatsoever, for going on 5 years. When the one thing I do is when I start a fucking plan, I finish it. I work hard. I'm a little scatterbrained, but when I hyper focus on something, I get her done. And that's one thing is sometimes I'm late at getting stuff done, but I get shit done. I finish, and that's kind of what's helped me through the business thing is I'll grind and I'll finish. And it's more important to me to get stuff finished right than on time. Kind of like George R. R. Martin, but I get on his ass for that. And yeah, so, but this is open doors, and the fact that like just hearing that it helps people, like that really helps us. And I'm glad it's reciprocal. I'm glad like we're helping, and because again, you guys have helped me. Now I'm not in the pain that the Hunky Chunky Funky Monkey's in or Mary's in. And sometimes it's hard, guys, to express. Because like I know words are not going to make you feel better. Like I don't want to give you some disingenuous bullshit. Like, but I really, I'm worried about you guys. Okay, I'm truly worried about you guys. So hang in there. We also have another friend. He's not a patron, but Langley Neely comes in. I mean, he's in a hospital every other month. I don't really know what for. It's none of my business to ask. But he's a really good guy. So when you see him in the chat, make sure to say hi to him. He's really nice. He's had a lot of health problems too. Penn just recently had something going on. And yeah, fucking sucks, man. Yeah. Pizza and hugs, OG Spock love. Is that what that is? Love, pizza, and hugs. I like that. I'm really glad you're here, OG Spock Love. You are a great addition to this community. Glad to have you around. You're really funny and you fit in very well here, which I don't know if it's good. It definitely means you're weird enough. You know, you're definitely weird enough. Hey, what's up, Jess? As I've stated, this stuff helped me get through the past year, and I really meant that. Thanks, Jess Reed. I can't imagine what it's like, especially if when you get along with your wife, to be away from her for that. That would suck. Like, there's some marriages are like, oh my God, she's gone for a year. Woo! Thank God. But no. Langley needs to get that cute nurse's phone number straight up. You want to talk? I mean, there's nothing healthier for the heart than a little bit of fucking wow, wow love. You know what I mean? That stuff helps you heal like that. Oh, the poor hunky chunky funky monkey. Thoughts and prayers, my friend. I'll say a prayer for you at the meeting tonight. Okay, you too, Mary. Oh, that's not tonight. That's why did I say tonight? Monday night. Tonight, I think I'm going to be on Comics Division's channel talking about comics. I have no idea what about, but we were going to talk about the Marvel reboot, but it's not rebooting. It's not rebooting. It's just kind of like a what if reboot, which is nothing to get excited about. Weird is definitely good. Owning my weird really helped me evolve. Like just accepting the fact that like I am not I don't know what normal is. I just don't know. And I don't think it really exists, to be honest with you. I think there's towing the line. I think there's being respectful. There's people who are honestly, it's a sign of great self-esteem. If somebody, who can work a job and be perfectly happy at it and just loves life how it is, that is a sign of a healthy fucking person. I've told the story before. The reason I don't judge religion, I'm not a religious person, but I do not judge religious people. I think that's horrible to do because the happiest motherfucker I know is a Christian UPS worker. Happiest person I've ever seen. And at first I thought, this is bullshit. This guy goes home at night and he cuts himself and drinks him and like has like dark porn or something. And no, got to know the guy, got Jesus in his life, and he is fucking on cloud nine all the time. And people love him. People love being around him. He's just a ball of positive energy that like you just can't help but smile. And no, he's not a CEO. He's a UPS driver and he's perfectly fucking happy doing what he's doing. And that's what I want. I don't know if I could ever achieve that, but that's what I don't want money. That's what I want. I want being perfectly fucking happy right now. Not a problem in the world. I'll get there someday. There's times there's like that, but that's fucking rich. Yeah, fuck normal. Yeah. Happy, straight up happy. Dark porn. Yeah, I didn't want to say anything else, but I was just say like that guy goes home. He's got like literal skeletons in his closet, but he doesn't. He's just a happy motherfucker. It's like, God damn, you're happy. You son of a bitch. No. I was born into a family that didn't understand weird or sci-fi. I was forbidden to watch Star Trek, and look what they made. They made the mighty Pen Farm Girl. Was it religious or just they didn't understand it? Pen Farm Girl. Curious. I mean, for the most part, when I was being weird early on, my dad just rolled his eyes. But my dad wasn't full of pep talks either. Like the biggest pep talk I got was like, "Don't be fucking stupid, idiot." And that's when I was like 10. So but my dad, I mean, just to give my dad a little credit. His dad died when he was 6. They lived on a South Dakota farm uh, with a crippled mom. My grandma got some hack doctor cut her tendon or whatever, so her leg went dead. So she was crippled. Dad died. Little brother died. So we had my dad had his older brother and the crippled mom, and they had a farm. They had a fucking farm, and that's how they made their living. So they had to hire people on, but 6-year-old dad was working out in the farm, like and like 9-year-old Verlin, his older brother, my uncle, was driving a combine and shit. And yeah, and they made it work. And they made it through fucking. I mean, there was no running water in their fucking outhouse for a bathroom. I mean, like no phone, like none of that shit. Their ice box was literally ice in a box, or they just put shit outside because it was South Dakota. Yeah. When they wanted to eat, they went out and killed a fucking chicken. And I know this, like, to some people, like, there's people who can't get their heads around. I could barely get my head around it. So when my dad was a hard ass, and that's why I understand that. And as further we get away from this generation, I worry. I do worry. Because my grandparents were into depression. They told me stories that like, bye Viking bitch, you gotta go. Back to work. Have fun. Yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up. I've been going on forever. What's up, Tamarocks? Yeah. So like, and this is shit I didn't like when I was a kid. I was so disrespectful for my dad, and like I started getting it later on. I was like, oh fuck, whoa. He didn't have a childhood. He didn't have a dad. He didn't have a childhood. He was all about surviving. So like his perspective is like, I have given you this great life. What the fuck is your fucking problem? And I kind of get that. I mean, it's more, you got to put more into parroting than, okay, here's your house, here's your food, go. All right, you got to put a lot more into parroting than that. But there's a lot. I miss my dad. I mean, he was like the one guy's advice I would listen to. I'm a little more open to it now, but because of my major trust issues, I wasn't a good, like, I thought just people were always full of shit. Now it's different. I got my sponsor. Um, there's a couple of older friends. I mean, they're kind of like surrogate dads. There's Melissa's dad, John, who's like the greatest. He's so fucking funny. Ex Chinook pilot from Vietnam. Just another badass, like a total, yeah. People talk about being badasses. Yeah. Yeah. I miss my dad. My dad was awesome. But, I got it. I got it. I'm proud of you. That was pretty good. That felt good. That was earned and it felt good. And honestly, I'm glad he waited. After I felt that, I'm like, oh, I'm glad he just didn't throw that out like it's nothing. And I make sure to not do that with my kid either. My kid's got to earn that shit. And it makes it a little better. But I was that dad especially because my kid was in the special needs classes, and they would give him a fucking award for everything. And I'm all, this award's meaningless, right? It's meaningless. I know it sounds like a dick, but I would tell him I said, you got to earn these things. And he understands it now. He's totally cool with it. He's like, yeah, those are dumb. Even though it's special needs, I know I sound terrible, but he understood. I'm like, no, you got to earn this shit. Yeah, I got that like about a year before he died. He decided to wait till almost the bitter end, but it was it was good to get it. It was good to get it. Oh, but that's the story. And I'll keep it up here. And yeah, like yeah. Just to reset, if anybody ever tries to dox me, yeah, I've been in prison. So what? It's 25 years ago. Learned a lot. Changed my life. Changed my fucking life. I saw, and I mean, I didn't really talk about what I saw in there, and I probably won't. But it's not a good place, folks. Not a good place. I will say this: there is, in a weird way, you are more free in prison than you are outside. How do I mean that? Not in a good way. You're free because you're so dehumanized at that point. And we're talking about in American prison here, which are not as bad as places in other countries. So if you're watching this from other countries, our prisons, our prisoners live better than most people in the world, to be honest with you. They're taken care of. They're fed every day. They got a place to sleep. They got fucking TV. They got sports. They get dinner made for them. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner provided. Every need is provided. They just can't go anywhere. They have weights. Yeah, some places might look at that going, that looks like a fucking country club. Well, it is, but you're also in the country club with a bunch of really, really bad people. I did not see a single innocent person in my whole time there. Maybe they didn't do the crime they were committed of, but they should have been in there. Believe me. I maybe I read nope. No, I didn't run across a single person who I didn't think should be in there. People said that about me, and I'm like, no, I earned my way in here. I really did. Yeah. So, but you're free. You're free to be as nasty as you want to be. Like there's no walls to put up. You don't have to be fake because you're like, guys will act differently around women. If they're attracted to women, they will act differently. They are free to be the guys they want to be. And it's fucking bad. The racism is horrible. Every prison is segregated. All right. So it's segregated. So they do not, they might now, but when I went there, I'm an H number. So I'm pretty early, goes way back. They did not put white people with black people. That would get somebody killed. They did not. Well, you always went with your race. They did not mix at all. The only time they would mix somebody in is a Native American. There's a high number of Native Americans in prisons. Not as much as black. It's really fucking disproportionate. The reasons behind that, not for discussion here, but there's a lot. There's fucking a lot compared to what they are. Compared to what percentage they are of the population, it's very disproportionate. Plenty of white people in prison. That's where I saw dudes with like swastikas tattooed on their fucking heads and their necks, and everybody groups up in races. They don't force you to join like gangs or anything, but you are expected to back up your race when shit goes down. If you do not, there are repercussions. I, being the idiot that I am, I just kept to myself, and I did not play any of that bullshit. The first bit of advice I listened to when I got in was just some cellmate I have. He's all, first time in, okay, here's what you do. Excuse me for the crassness of what I'm about to say, because there's a crass word coming. Don't fuck with drugs. Don't fuck with gambling. Don't fuck with queers, and you're good. Keep to yourself. And if somebody calls you out, you got to fight. You don't not fight. If you not fight, you become a bitch. So, yeah. So I just followed all those rules to a T. I minded my own fucking business. You don't ever want to get a snitch jacket or you're dead. You don't want to get it, you don't want to be identified as a bitch or you're, well, worse than dead. Yeah. So they put general population is kept in line. They usually put one or two. This was back in the day. I don't know if they do that now. They purposely put some how's the best transitioning men on the yard, and that helps quell things. They know what's going on. They know what they're fucking doing in these prisons. All right. They know how to control the crowds. They know what they're fucking doing. There's a bunch of dark shit that Oz isn't going to tell you. I'd say the closest thing to real that I've seen. Oz is not real. Oz is bullshit. American Me. American Me. American Me was shot where I was in, and it was shot there right before I got there. So American Me is the closest thing to real that I've seen. Like Orange is the New Black and stuff like that. Where do those people get to walk around that freely? I want to know. So yeah, it's a bad place. It's a bad place, and it creates more bad people than it helps, unfortunately. But what are you going to do? There's a lot of people who need to be in there. Believe me, you don't want them out in society. And it's there's too many people in there. They need to decriminalize drugs, but they can't just blanketly let people out like they recently did here in California, because our crime rate went up 40% when they did that. And then they went, I wonder how that happened. Well, you let out a bunch of prisoners without like doing it case by case basis. They just decided to let a bunch out. They need to take a little more time on that. So I'll leave that there. But yeah, it's everybody taking notes. There you go. It's a very bad place. Okay. And oh my God, did I get my ass kicked a couple times? Pretty fucking good. But it ended up for the best, because like after I got my ass kicked, like one guy felt sorry for me. That's the guy who broke my orbital bone, by the way. But when I wasn't getting up again, yeah, he just kind of cooled off for some reason. And yeah, so they got me to the nurse. And of course I ran into the volleyball pole. That's what happened. I ran into the volleyball pole. But after that, didn't really get messed with at all, ever. But I mean, like I was like a gangly kid when I was in there. So, and I had this like really long, I mean, that's why the haircut is so bad in this picture, because I had super long hair, and that was just not a good look in there. I remember one of the first things I heard when I was in there was, "Hey, Blondie, you want a taste of my sack lunch?" You're like, "Oh shit, you're not in Kansas anymore." So, yeah. Did I just kill a nerd? Oops. Life in the People's Republic of California. California. I think things are starting to change a little bit here, Jess. People are starting to get fed up with some of the bullshit. Tell you that right now. And San Francisco's changing. That's for sure. Not in ways people think. All right, man. So enough of that dark stuff. Back to the pop culture, everybody. After this, oh, you're welcome, Jimmy Olsen Blues. I wasn't sure how this was going to turn out. I still don't know, but thank you all for listening. And just remember that, yeah, it was a long time ago. I am completely harmless now. I'm not angry. Yeah, it really takes a lot to get me angry. I still get angry. I got very angry recently at a pharmacist who was fucking with one of my sponsees, and I lost, and it was not good. I was not supposed to lose my shit in front of my sponsee like that. That was not cool. Thanks. You guys are an inspiration to me. So, yeah, our next, I'm going to probably have to I'm working on this Doctor Who Christmas idea video. It's going to be a while. It's going to be a couple days. I'm not going to get that done today. There is another video that's popped up that I might do. We're definitely going to do Titans tomorrow and Friday Night Tights, and Susan's feeling better. And, yeah, so, but look out for, I might do another video or two here or there. Thank you to all the new subscribers, to the new patrons. You'll be getting your packages before Christmas. Yay! So you're getting Christmas presents from Nerdrotic. Most of them are going to be from what was this side of the wall. You don't really see that. That's because the wall right here kind of goes in, see, in, and yeah. So there's a bunch of like Game of Thrones stuff and Funko figures, not pops, no pops. Um, yeah, and I got a big. I don't know where the fuck I put it now. Shit, where'd I put it? Well, it's around here somewhere. I got a big old bag of action figures to replace it with. Um, and yeah, it's gonna be fun stuff. Yes. I can make sure you get a Dalek. I've got like, I can mix in. Not everybody's gonna get a Dalek, but you'll get something as cool. Maybe you'll get a Cyberman instead or something. Because I've got hundreds of those fuckers. But the thing is, with the Doctor Who figures, I want to keep like I want to collect one of each up until Jodie. And they keep making David Tennant stuff and they repaint it. And I feel like I got to buy it. What the hell? 13,959? Jesus Christ. It was under 900 this morning. Why is it going up so much? Must be the last video. I have this cool app that you can add, or it's something it's an add-on for YouTube that gives you like your hourly count and it like breaks down your analytics to like a scientific level. And ooh, that shit works. That was like, glad I got that. Oh, you're welcome. No problem. Thank you guys. You are wonderful. Love you guys. And we will, I'll be back. I might, Comics Division's channel tonight. I'll be on Comics Division if you want to check that out. It's going to be Comic Talk. So I don't know if you guys want to listen to that, but I think Feisty might join us. And yeah, it's Doomcock's robot. And Exozone Saturday, 9 or 10 Central. So that's going to be 7 or 8 Pacific. We'll announce it soon, but it is happening. Oh, thanks. 15K by the anniversary, maybe. That's crazy to think about. That's still 1,000. I mean, I don't know how long this is going to keep going. I'm just trying to keep it going. Like if I see that, like the analytics thing, if I see it dipping a little bit, it's time to do another video. YouTube is not forgiving. They want shit every day. But I don't want to just like shit out a video. It's got to be a reason. There has to be a reason. And thankfully I found a good reason to do every video. Not just simply reading an article. I want to give you like something funny or something insightful, or I don't know, but I just don't want to like shit out a video. So yeah, I have nothing of yet, but the Christmas video idea, it's got to be done right. Because it's, I want to show the funny ones, the ones that aren't funny, the ones that are really good at the end, and kind of shame the BBC. The whole point is to shame the BBC, going, look at this. And it was easy. Some people came up with some really, really good ideas that like legit I would watch. And then there's some funny shit in there, which is kind of that we're going to use. All right. 20K. I don't know. Can't wait for Exozone. 40 people. That's nuts. Thanks guys for like taking an interest in that. That's so cool. I mean, like honestly, you guys care more about my channel than than relatives do. Okay. Could give a shit. So it's awesome to see that. That's great because we're part of this. We're part of this. You are part of the show. We will continue to do most everything live. That is never going to change. I don't care. By the way, I've heard that live streams kill your analytics. Bullshit. They help. You just got to be good at live streaming. That's all. And you got to be attentive to your people. You can't just talk and not talk to your people. Unless they're not you, like you're my people. We are all in this together. I don't like to use the word community. We'll say family, friends, whatever, just not community. It's one of those buzzwords I don't like. I only subbed 47 times with 17 accounts. You're awesome. Awesome. Hey, I subbed to Doomcock 4 times. I had 4 email accounts and he was at 990, 998. I'm like, oh, I'm getting this fucker to 1,000. And it was me. It got him to 1,000. So I don't begrudge people doing that. We are going to be on 8:30 p.m. Pacific time. Just read. I will put it on the website at Comics Division channel. 8:30 p.m. Pacific. We're a cult. I like that. We're a cult. That's good. That's good. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. You are wonderful. And I'll see you tonight. Bye-bye. Progress, not perfection.